If therapy has taught me nothing else, I've gained at least a tiny understanding of for how our brains process anxieties and fears metaphorically. So I'm not afraid of planes, but I'm traumatized by childhood divorce. The airplane is just the thing that took me away to live across the country after my parents separated. So it's a convenient symbol for something very, very frightening. Sometimes I'm feeling hurt by something someone has said to me, though when I think closely on their words, I realize they weren't trying to be hurtful, nor are those words even that bad. I'm actually just feeling tired and hungry, maybe. My brain interprets my body's low energy as emotional duress rather than physical. Our dumb old nervous system just wants something to worry about. Of course, it's kind of good that our brain works this way because when we are actually in danger, it's ready. Our brain has trained through millennia of evolution for this opportunity. Is that thunder? Better get inside. Do I smell smoke? Better check the oven. Is that a car coming? Better get off this road. Not everything is a metaphor. Sometimes the thing that's scary or painful is scary or painful. The demon possession of Amityville Horror in the fiction of the movie is actually a demon possession, even if it could easily be read as anxiety over a new home purchase in a collapsing New York economy of the 70s. Jason and Pamela Voorhees, within the reality of the Friday the 13th franchise, are psycho killers killing people, even if in the real world they seem to be more of a collective pearl clutching about youthful sexuality. We can film crit the fuck out of horror films, but we can also just look on the surface and say, yeah, that ghost is goddamn scary. And it keeps us from having to understand anything deeper about ourselves, our world, our neighbors. It's a pretty great system, this horror genre. Though I have to say, with this week's film, I wish there were a deeper critique of the monsters at hand, that the alien belly harvesters or the lady motel killer or the zombie VCR grandpa were symbols of something deeper about our universal neuroses. But honestly, the 2012 anthology film VHS is a collection of straightforward horror shorts held together by two things. One, the found footage in a framing device, and two, the theme that toxic masculinity is both masculine and toxic. I don't hate either of these two elements at all for a horror film. I mostly like them, but they're both a lot to take in for 2 hours. My eyeballs are still quivering in their sockets from all the jerky screens and all the screens full of jerks. Hi, Cecil.
Hi, Jeffrey.
When was the last time you got truly scared? Like scared, not like creeping
Scared,
anxiety, but like,
scared.
oh fuck.
I mean, I gave myself the creeping anxiety one night while driving through. I was doing a kamikaze road trip to the beach, and you know how I'm convinced that Google is a serial killer sometimes. Google Maps, because it will send you down the weirdest roads at seemingly the oddest times. And this was like I'd been on the road for 5 hours already. I was like, I only have an hour and a half left, and I'm going to be at that beachfront by midnight drinking a Mai Tai or something stupid under the moonlight. But the Google Maps decided to get me off the main highway and send me back these 2-lane highways in like the South Carolina low country. So it's like 2-lane highways through palmetto trees and swampland. And I shit you not, I had to keep my eyes directly in front of me because I was convinced if I looked to the left or right into the fields, I would see some sort of strange lumbering cryptid beast out there. Not to mention the fact that I was trying to go well under the speed limit because that's when deer come out and will fuck up your car at that time of night. So real scare, fake scare combined in my mind to drive a little bit slower and get to the beach a little bit later.
Nighttime country driving is frightening because
So
if you
scary.
I have hit a deer before at a very low rate of speed.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was more of a side swipe of that motherfucker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was also in a car that I'd had for 3 months, a new
Oh no.
car in
Oh, no.
1997, and
You're like, I just got this.
I just got this, you motherfucker. I hope you're not dead. I hope you have a limp.
Oh no.
Oh no. So yeah, I have living out in the country. I definitely have the thing where, I've talked about before, like having to walk 100 feet to my shed to throw
Oh
the
my god.
garbage
That
out.
that could be the scariest thing.
That regularly freaks me out because you hear noises and I've gotten used to them, so I don't think much, but you
Mhm.
hear unusual noises.
Sure.
And so I heard a like it could not have been 20 feet from me, just a whoom. And I'm like, what is that? And it sounded guttural, like from a throat, not like a whumping sound.
Yeah.
And then I just heard galloping, and I just basically scared a deer.
Yeah.
And it just snorted and ran off. I just about had a heart attack.
My favorite in the country is where you hear like thrash, 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 thrash. And then like the tiniest little chipmunk comes out. It was like, that was you? You were making all that noise, little chipmunk? But it sounds so like everything is so amplified when you're by yourself, when you're quiet by yourself, and when there's just sort of nature all around you. I mean, I get the same kind of fear, but in a different, like the different side of the coin, when I'm in large public spaces made to fill a lot of people that are empty. I think we've talked about this before. So like being the only one in an airport.
Yeah.
Or in a mall in the middle of the day when everybody should be out shopping, but somehow you turn a corner and it's like you're the last person on Earth.
Do those giant wide shots in 2001: A Space Odyssey kind of freak you out? Like where there's just one guy sitting in this giant white room.
Too much space. Too much space.
Too many holes. Too much space.
Too many holes.
This was my first time watching VHS, the first one from 2012. You've seen this movie before, right?
I have.
It's interesting. I was getting a lot of flashbacks to the movie Hostel, the Eli Roth film that we covered on this show, in that it's not quite torture porn, but I would argue actually it's almost more violent, like more bloody than Hostel.
Sure.
And it kind of deals around this a similar thing about 20-something men are violent boys. Like when we talk about like the way cats, when they go outside, torture other animals, like they don't even like hunt, they just go beat the shit out of birds and things like that. That's what boys are. And that's throughout this whole movie.
I would widen that to say just 20-somethings are just violent.
Yes.
Because our antagonist in film number 2.5 or whatever, like it is ruthless.
Yeah.
She is.
She is. Yeah, she absolutely is. And there's kind of it kind of revels in, I think, a little bit of the classic revenge horror fantasy too. You know, the idea that the men in this movie generally, even in the one with the lady killer, the man is kind of like, he's not violent. He's not a bad person. He's just kind of a little annoying.
I thought he was okay. He's just he's like toast. He's milk toast.
Yes, that's what it is. A little annoying is kind of where I would land with that guy. Like,
yeah, a little bit.
Not for everyone, but like not like an abuser or whatever.
No, he also seems like he pays his bills on time and like has a normal job, and which is great in real life when you're looking for a partner, but terrible in a horror movie because you're like, oh, you're either going to get eaten or you're going to eat.
Yeah.
But you're probably not going to become an Ash and pick up a chainsaw and become the like hero of the world,
right?
You're an insurance claim adjuster or whatever.
Well, let's talk about how this movie starts. We have, like with all anthology movies, we've got a framing device.
I love a wraparound story, Jeffrey.
I do too. This is Tape 56, directed by Adam Wingard, written by him and Simon Barrett. And we've got videotapes, basically dudes videotaping their own criminal antics. Sort of criminal, like they are, well, no,
they're
criminal. Definitely criminal. I meant sort of criminal in that like half of their stuff is just them bashing windows out of a condemned house or whatever.
Although that could be somebody's house.
That's true. That is true.
Douchebaggery, just dirt baggery.
Absolute scumbags. They but their main thing that they kind of make money off of, that we learn through these videos, is that they get about $50 a pop from some amateur porn site to get videos of women's tits.
Yeah.
And the way they do this is they assault women in public, in parking garages, grab them, pull their shirt up, get it on camera, and that's how they get their videos.
And then run away.
I
feel like this is like this film is like the festering wound left over from the like Girls Gone Wild generation.
Yeah, totally.
Like, this is like a younger generation looking at the things that made the 90s and the early 2000s. And then it's now 2012, it's 10 years later, and they're like, these are the bad guys in our society.
Yeah.
And so filmmakers are starting to make films about those bad guys in order to get, sort of a new villain for their morality tale, which, as we know, anthology horror is always very, it's got a bit of a formula to it usually, because it just works. It's like a serial comic book. It's like Creep Show. It's these, it's what was the one on HBO? Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah.
Like, we got to establish the bad guys are really bad and the good guys are probably really good. We got to, like, I love short film. I love short stories because no breath is wasted, theoretically.
Yeah, right.
Like, everything is a clue. You got to pay attention a little bit harder when you're watching a short, because it'll come and go, and you might not get a second chance to have the filmmakers explain the fuck out of everything to you in the second act or the third act, as they often do.
Yeah, it's just it's pushing buttons, right? It's just kind of activating. It's a playlist, right? Like, it's a playlist on a theme. Instead of songs, we just have horror shorts that kind of work in and around a theme. I couldn't help but to think about, I was really into, when I was in college studying journalism, I was really into media theory. I got really into like Marshall McLuhan and Neil Postman and all these folks, and I was really fascinated with a writer named Douglas Rushkoff in the late 90s and early aughts, who kind of talked about the invention of the camcorder, right? And how the O.J. Simpson Bronco chase was kind of the first moment that we as a public sort of recognized the power of the videotape. I mean, we had already seen Rodney King. We had already seen the impact that a single person could make.
Yeah.
So it's not talking about the impact of it. It's talking about the O.J. Bronco chase was everybody with their camcorders out recording the thing and understanding, after Rodney King, we can all do this. We can all record things. We can all take everything in, and not just our family vacations, but something we're creating our own media. And so it is
the 6 o'clock news
20 years later.
Doesn't have the 6 o'clock news doesn't have the only ones with the cameras anymore. Yeah. So you can just go out and film whatever the fuck you want. And then it's almost like everyone became a paparazzi.
That's right.
And then they did.
Yep.
Now, Jeffrey, I gotta talk about this. Just two things that this is a rose and a thorn for this film. I love this idea of the framing narrative story of this tape 56. Because I looked up a quote, and it one of the filmmakers, or one of the producers, actually described it as a living film, which I think is fucking fascinating.
Interesting. What does that mean?
So the idea in this first one is that we've got these scumbaggeries that are like out after this magic videotape. They'll know it when they see it, which I was like, will you? oh, because you'll be dead. Oh, that's right. Okay, because that's the way that works. But the idea that we're watching characters film themselves and then get caught up in the films that they're also watching. So they're not only are they just going in to find a videotape, and they find it and they watch it and they die, which is, standard Ring procedure, Ringu formula. But we know that what we're watching is eventually going to get passed on and add to the pile. And so it's like becomes a feedback loop on itself. So this VCR, this VHS tape, is alive, more or less. It is a living document in that it is constantly changing and can be changed. And the hows and the whys of it, not important. I think that's a cool fucking idea. Here's my thorn. I'm so old and my eyes hurt so much after watching this film, Jeffrey. And I got to say this up front, y'all. Like, this is a great anthology horror. Thematically, it does push a lot of the same buttons, but I think that's just where we're at in 2012. Like, a lot of people were thinking similar
Yeah.
if we, this plus this plus this equals funding for our horror film.
Sure.
But I went to bed with a fucking migraine, y'all.
It's so shaky. I don't even think that's an age thing. I mean, me speaking also as a fellow 40 something, but I definitely have talked to lots of younger people who, of listeners to this podcast who are talking about, like, who've mentioned on Twitter and on our Patreon discussion threads too, that like the found footage is so hard to watch sometimes.
It can be.
And this movie is particularly revels in the shakiness because it is about
Loves it.
normal people with the camcorder, which gives it a veracity. Is that the word I'm looking at? Like a truthfulness, right? It gives it a reality that that
cinema
feels
verite.
true. Yeah, it feels so true. It feels so correct. It's so well done. But like Blair Witch, yeah.
You really want to watch 2 hours of like which would you rather watch? 2 hours of your wedding footage edited together by 2 or 3 professional camera people that have shot all the best moments and then edited together the best moments, or do you want to watch your Aunt Trudy, who just like has a champagne glass in one hand and a camera in the other and just continually hit record over the course of 2 hours, and then it's like filming her shoes, filming the ceiling, like, no, you don't, is the answer to that.
Trudy is already on her 3rd bottle of bubbles. We have got to cut her off.
Listen, we need to corral Trudy and we need to get that camera out of her hands. I knew a friend of mine worked with this Eastern European director in college, and she, like, when we were both in college, and she would email me the notes from these lectures because I didn't get to, I thought it was kind of cool. But this guy said the best thing. He was like, look out the window. What do you see? You see a tree. You see a bird. That is life. Life is boring. Art is not life.
Yeah.
Art is about the day where something happens. It's not about the day where nothing happens. It's about the day where something happens. From the most mundane thing might be the catalyst that changes your entire life, but it has to be about something. And I find that the doorway into the found footage genre sometimes lets itself fall back onto a laziness of nothing is happening in order to lull you into that tick, 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 tick of the roller coaster ride. So that way the downward scream comes later. But at the same time, I'm like, boys, you like smashing glass. Okay. Oh, no. Now we're going to listen to you all argue over whether or not to do the robbery job. We all know you're going to do the robbery job. And none of you all are like stellar actors. They're all fine actors, but they're not like, this is not Willem Dafoe up here.
Yeah.
And Amanda Plummer, like fleshing out these characters,
Well, I want to make another case for, there's so many reasons to have diversity in casting, and I don't mean just racial diversity, but I also mean diversity of gender projection, diversity of size and shape and whatever else of physical form, all of this, because when they go from this to the setup device, the framing device, into the first film, I had no idea we had transitioned. I was like, oh no! These boys left their friend in the house and now they're all out partying, because I can't tell any of them apart.
Oh, but couldn't you tell these 4 douchebag white trash dudes from these 4 douchebag upper middle class douchebag white dudes? I don't. Yeah, because they had popped collars, so clearly these boys are into Fall Out Boy and these boys are into like Kid Rock.
Yeah, totally. But it took me a second before I realized
slim difference.
What was happening. Okay, so the ending of the opening framing device is that one of the guys in the boy gang is like, hey,
you make it sound like a boy band. Boy gang. Boy zone.
Yeah, they're K-pop. The boy gang, boy zone is they've got to go break into this house, as you said, because there's this reward to find the tape. They leave one. They get upstairs. They find a chair, a recliner with a dead old man in it,
who looks like he's taken a nap.
He does.
Like, he don't look dead. That just looked like Grandpa Joe is a little tired, maybe had too many brewskis, and has been like working out in the garden.
Yes. They don't
Like,
check his pulse or nothing. They're like, he's dead.
no, no, and he's just laying back. He's like in his lazy boy. And they're all like, ew, ghost. And I was like, I don't know, throw a sheet over him or something? Like,
Yeah, something.
but
So
what
they,
is it? But in that room, there's also a fuck ton of TVs
yeah,
on static and a VHS, and like it's something video related. This dead man has been watching for a long, and you
yes,
get the feeling he's been watching for a long, 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 long time.
yeah. So the bunch of the boys run through the house looking because they don't know which tape they're looking for. They're just searching the house for anything else because it's not marked and there's so many tapes. They leave one guy in there to just watch after this room, and he just like, well, to pass the time, I guess I'll watch this tape. And so that's how we get to our first thing.
I gotta say, all four of them are in that fucking room, and they're like, "What? Okay, well, let's just go look around the house." And the other guy's like, "Well, what if we just hit eject? Look, there's a tape in the
Right
machine,
here. Yeah.
right? Oh, okay, search over. Come on, let's go collect our monies." No, no, no. That dude's got to watch it.
I do like that, as you kind of were referencing earlier. I hadn't thought about this, that I'm starting to really love the idea that somebody said you'll know the tape when you see it,
Yeah,
meaning
really?
yeah, well, it's we've thrown you into the labyrinth, right? You've
Yeah.
been tossed into the
Mm-hmm.
labyrinth.
Mm-hmm.
So you think, oh, well, I just have to get through a maze. No, 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 my friend.
No,
So much
there's a
more
maze
complicated.
below the maze.
Have you not read Piranesi?
I have. It's pretty good.
It's pretty awesome. So, Amateur Night, that is our first short film by David Bruckner. And this is three boys, Clint and
Shane, Patrick, and Clint.
Shane, Patrick, and Clint, and they are going out for the night. They have bought a new pair of like Google Glass, like eyeglass
Yeah.
camera.
Do you remember when that was a moment? I was in New
Yes.
York City when that shit was going on, and I would literally like cover my face when I saw people. Not that I'm insane. I'm only a little bit insane.
Uh-huh.
And just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they aren't out to get you. But when you like work in the same neighborhood as Google, everyone, you just sort of know that you pick up things. You're like, oh my God, everybody in this coffee shop is Google Glass. Fuck, I'm going to cover the numbers on my credit card. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, for real.
Stop filming everything.
I love it when like the public outright it just rejects a piece
They're just
of
like,
technology
absolutely not.
like that. Yeah,
But our phones can secretly record everything we're saying. That's
totally
fine.
That's totally
But
cool.
just don't look at me.
Yeah. So the idea here is they're putting it on little Clint, and he's going
They're up for
to
a boys' night.
boys' night, but they're also like,
Worst.
you need to get laid tonight, Clint, and then get that on tape that you're basically creating like non-consensual amateur porn.
Yeah. And also Clint is like this poor guy.
He's
like
so dweeby.
He's so dweeby, and he has these like bathroom moments throughout this film in which we know we're watching two douchebags and a borderline douchebag who is like getting roped into terrible activity by his louder, more chaotic, overpowering friends, that's how youth works, I think. But this poor guy, when he's just like in the bathroom, just be like, what's going on? Oh, are they raping? Oh gosh, I just need him. Like, God. It's so milquetoast, some of these characters. But then again, is it middle America? Isn't that?
Well, it is, and I think
Isn't that what they're commenting on?
I think he's the kind of interesting criminal in all of this, because Shane and Spike or whatever, Patrick, Patrick, Shane and Patrick, they're your classic kind of like, they're your classic just boy archetype, like a toxic male boy and
alpha boy.
And Clint,
I'm the loudest. No, I'm the loudest.
Clint is more your internet MRA dweeb, right? Like he's not quite fully radicalized into the culture yet, but you see him getting there. So it kind of, things begin because there's a moment where he gets so fucking drunk. And I'm like, my dude, if you're trying to meet people, not non-consensual porn people, but like just trying to meet a
Just go out and
person,
have
a nice time. Pace yourself, my boy,
oh Lord.
because you're then suddenly there's this like kind of frightening, kind of sexy, big-eyed woman staring at him going, hey, I like you.
I
I
like
like
you.
you.
I like you. I like you. And he's like, okay, thanks. And she
And
just stares at him. I like you. And you're like, okay, we should go over there.
he does
I'm gonna
like,
go stand over there for a while.
yeah, he doesn't even invite her to it. He just kind of was like, uh-huh, and then just like waddles over to the couch and sits down.
And you can hear from his voice, he is trashed.
Yeah,
It's called amateur night for a reason, I think.
totally.
If you want to bump up that amateur night, have a hamburger for every 2 beers. There you go. Put something in that tummy of yours.
Mm-hmm.
Soak up that booze.
So they get cleared out. They get thrown out of this bar because we can see everything getting really rowdy with the boys and the girls.
Well, I think it's Patrick, the blonde one, is particularly just the worst.
Yes. They get kicked out. And so now some of the girls are, a couple of the girls, including this Lily character, this I like you lady. These 3 girls are like, where are we going? So they're just like crazy drunk driving back to the boys' place. They're hanging out at the motel that they're staying at.
This has got like oh god, what's that terrible? This has got like Myrtle Beach written all over it. Just like the worst.
Yeah.
The worst. There's also a lot of just like terrible hotel rooms in this
Totally.
in these films, and I was like, oh no, another gross hotel room. Let me see.
Yeah.
But get used to it because there's gonna be a few.
Yeah. So they they have one of the girls has actually we just have 2 girls, right?
There's only 2 girls.
2 girls. Lily, who we've met, and then this other girl who is making out with Patrick, or Shane. I'm sorry. She's making out with Shane.
Yeah.
And then she's so drunk that she passes out.
Even though Shane gets mad her with cocaine.
Yeah.
All the usual tricks.
So Shane gets all mad that she's fucking passed out.
He wants to fuck tonight.
Oh, fuck. So he leans on Lily and starts kissing her. And then Patrick gets up to go after Lily too. And Lily's like, not him.
I know.
Which is really interesting.
I know. And she's like, and it's weird. She's like on the bed and she's like,
yeah,
like making cat noises.
She does a thing with Clint earlier in the scene where she leans close to his face, opens her mouth and goes deep inhale, which is what cats do. Cats will do that because part of their olfactory receptor, sense,
their smell,
sense of smell is in their mouth. And so when they do that open mouth inhale, they're taking in big smells. Like that is them taking in the big smell. So she does that to Clint to like take in the whole of his body.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I also like, and I know that this short film was expanded into the film The Siren, which I've not seen, but similar vibes. I think it actually, I do want to see it. It's been mentioned a couple times of the show, but I think it does like kind of beef out these female characters in here.
Yeah.
And this idea that like, I kind of love this idea that, like what if Patrick has like, I don't know, like some sort of like disease or has like, it's because he's a douchebag, because like kind of all of them are assholes. But the idea is that she can like, she's looking for a mate and she can sense with like a sixth sense that he's not a good candidate for mate. Like I love that shit. It's left unexplained. And I'm like, great. Don't like love that.
Yeah. I also like that she's, we're playing with the succubus here, right?
Yeah.
But also mixing it with the mermaid a little bit. But she
the siren,
literally the siren. But it's when Shane starts to undress Lily and pulls down her pants, and we see her legs, and it's covered in like scales and shit. Yeah. Just her feet are so.
She needs a petty.
Yeah.
She's dying for a petty.
Clint goes into the bathroom, and then suddenly Patrick is in the bathroom being like, she fucking bit me, man.
And he's all naked.
Yes.
It is kind of funny, this, like how the pendulum swings back and forth, like in the 70s and 80s. It was like, you know, boobs, boobs, boobs. And now they're like, oh, look, we're being very like, not only of like the social themes that we're commenting on, but it's also like the idea that a male actor is like, like a dick and a butt or like sacrosanct and can only be seen through like a glossy shower. No, this dude's just nude, just like full on naked. And you can tell the actor is mostly comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But I think you can see the smile creases in his eyes are just like, I'm naked and I've got to say these lines and I've got to act really good because I just graduated from film school and this is going to be a big one. But I'm also showing my wang and, but you know what? I'm 23, so I look amazing. So fuck it. Who cares?
Well, they go back out to confront her for biting him, and she's like, well, that's not the worst I could do, because I'll show you what the worst I can do is, which she just devours the shit out of Shane.
Yeah. I love it when she just like picks up his body and like spider monkey leaps with the body off the bed. Like, oh, okay. Well, guys, I don't think barricading yourself in the bathroom with no windows is the best solution. But you know what? Patrick is nude. Patrick is like torn down the shower curtain rod.
Yeah.
Which if you've ever been to a hotel room, you're like, that ain't gonna do shit.
Yeah.
Because that is $3 at Walmart.
This is one of the dumber moments in a horror, dumber decisions by a character in a horror movie. It's like, I'm going to go, this woman literally just picked a 190-pound man up and flung him against the wall.
Yeah.
She has devoured his inner organs with her sharp ass teeth.
Yeah.
She has no more irises or pupils left. It's just full black eyes. And you know what I should figure out how to do is get away from her. But he's going to attack her with a $3 curtain rod from Big Lots. Jesus Christ. He gets not only his ass destroyed, but his nuts torn off and thrown across the room.
Yeah, full dick and balls. Just like as she's sitting there eating him like a juice box. And poor Clint is like trying to like sort of side around to get to the door. And she just full on whips Patrick's dick and balls off and just sort of like tosses them in the corner. Like, ugh.
Like a butcher. Yeah. Like taking the silver skin off of the beef or whatever. Like, nope, don't need that.
And Patrick is like, and again, this is where the handy cam footage gets a little messy because clearly we're watching somebody. I like the idea that they put it in the glasses because it means we get whatever he's looking at, we see, which is better, I think, than the whatever I'm holding in the next one, especially. It gets a little like, Jesus Christ, fucking frame the shot. What am I looking at right now? I'm looking at a door and half a screen, But this is one where it works because he's like, we're seeing just like, he's just like, it's like shot of the doorknob, shot of her drinking his friend like a juice box, shot of the doorknob. He makes a run for it. And he makes it all the way down the stairs. He goes ass over tea kettle.
Breaks his fucking wrist open.
Breaks his
compound fracture. Yeah.
I hate that. It's like that is like third on the list after fingernails being torn off or like teeth being pulled out.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty bad. When you see bone, I'm like, no. You just I might as well die. Just leave me here to die. I ain't coming back from this.
So she catches up to him, gets downstairs. Her face is now fully changed. Like it is split open down the middle.
Yeah.
Like it's got crazy makeup. Like her eyes are wide. Like she's looking all Avatar and shit with the like wider eye.
It's very symmetrical. Which is like unnerving.
Yeah.
It's like when you do one of those weird like TikTok-y, Instagram-y filters, whatever, if you like giving your information to China like that, then like what you do, where you're like, which Disney prince are you? And you're like, ah! And then it like puts the Disney prince over your face and it looks odd.
Yeah.
This is that.
Yeah. So she then says again, like, I like you. I like you. And she starts to go down on him.
Yes.
And he is panicking
Terrified.
for good reason.
Yeah.
And obviously not getting hard because
Yeah.
she looks up and she's like, do you not like this?
You
No
like me?
And then she
No?
starts to cry. And he uses this opportunity to get the fuck out.
Run away. Yeah. And she's like,
yeah.
it's so scary because she's like sobbing in the corner, nude sobbing in the
Yeah.
corner of a stairwell in a Motel 6, which honestly, girl, been there.
Mm-hmm.
Been there.
I love this last sequence is really great because he goes running and he's screaming for help. He's pounding on windows of other motels. And like we see inside women who are like, get the fuck away from us.
Yeah.
You know, which is a great moment. He gets down into the parking lot and there's these two men like by a truck or whatever. And they're like, what the fuck, man? What are you doing? He's like, please help, please help. And then you see the look on their face.
Yeah.
Go like, what the in the sky? And suddenly this boy gets swept up from our POV, flown through the air. All we know is this lady grew wings and she's flying his ass away.
And it's like you can see her, like there's a shot, and this is where like the low like the graininess of a VHS film really aids, because they can superimpose wings over blackness and it kind of does have that look, like the CGI-ness or the special effects don't hinder, but they help by the VHS found footage kind of thing.
So that's the end of Amateur Night.
Oh yeah, finale. The glasses fall to the ground.
Yes, it's a great button. Back in our tape 56, dude who had been watching the tape is now missing.
Just gone.
He's just gone.
Jeffrey.
They find a fuck ton of VHS tapes in the basement. They're like, okay, we got to get a garbage bag. We're just gonna take all of them.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, creepy naked man walks by in the background. Man, I don't understand. Y'all, turn on the fucking lights. Turn on. Anytime you're in a place, turn on the lights so you can just see everything.
I love how this wraparound the story is so funny because they're like, shh, everybody shush. Even though they're like crunching through snow, making the most noise, they're like, I think you've lost the element of surprise. Like 30 minutes ago, but
totally.
Okay.
Totally.
Also, I think it's so funny, themes in horror films, such as the malnourished naked figure in the attic or the basement, a la Wreck. You know, like people love / are terrified of that. The idea of like catching someone in a basement walking through the periphery of your vision is scary.
Yeah.
But if they're naked, you're up shit creek.
Yes.
And if they're like weirdly long, like Slender Man, you're in a fucking horror movie.
Yeah. So let's talk about what is this? Second Honeymoon by Ty West, who did X and Pearl.
Yep.
So we've got Sam and Stephanie. They're traveling across the desert. They seem to be heading toward maybe Los Angeles or something, but they're in Arizona.
Road trip. They're going to the Grand Canyon.
Stephanie's
going to like Jackson Hole.
And Stephanie's got the video camera and she's videotaping their whole trip with each other.
Now, I think Stephanie is funny because in my mind, she has Anna Kendrick face. So I just kept calling her Anna Kendrick because I love Anna Kendrick. But Anna Kendrick has that thing where she's got like that super dry deadpan, but with a wink. And that's what makes her like so fucking like I just eat her up like with a spoon. Like I would watch anything. Stephanie is just dry. There's no wink. Yeah. You know? And we will learn that is probably for a reason.
Yeah. So listen, the narrative of this story is night one, a strange woman comes to the door, asks for a ride. It creeps Sam out a little bit.
Yep.
Later that night, that figure probably that figure sneaks in, steals some of his money, runs a knife but without cutting Stephanie, just
Uh-huh.
kind of touches her butt with a
Yeah.
switchblade. Next night, same camera person sneaks back in, stabs Sam in the throat, and then it is revealed that it is a lady, and she starts making out with Stephanie, and they ride away together. That is the entire
That's the
plot of this
entire
30-minute
plot.
short.
You know, look outside, Jeffrey. You see a tree. You see a squirrel. That is life. This is not life.
No.
Now, but I do love, but this is where I think Ty West is like so good, is that, you know, the first 2/3 of this short is honeymoon footage,
It
like
is.
very kind of dry honeymoon footage, which we know that, like, you know, this sort of revival of the 70s slow burn House of the Devil kind of film is like gaining in popularity. So the idea of like, we know something bad will eventually happen, but we don't know what quadrant of the world it's coming from. Are they going to turn on each other? Are they against? Is it, you know, like when he gets? I love the detail of the quote big fortune teller, automated fortune
Yes.
teller.
Yes.
And she's like, "Hey, let you put in $1. See what you get, honey." And he gets this fortune that's like, "Don't trust friends. Someone is taking advantage of your good nature."
Yes.
And she's like, "I'm going to take that. I'm going to put it right in my pocket. I'm going to keep
Uh-huh.
this forever as a souvenir of our honeymoon. Love you."
That was her fortune.
No, it was his. Like he
Oh,
put the I think it's supposed to be his.
okay. I thought it
Like
was
he puts like
hers.
she put in the $1, but it was very much like he's like, "Oh, I got," you know, it seems like it's a fortune for him.
I mean, it might be a fortune for both, because actually I had the complete opposite take of the part of the fortune that I took away was
Oh,
not
really?
the caution about somebody's taking advantage of your good nature. It's the reunion with a loved one.
That's
It
that's how it
begins with,
starts.
you will
Oh,
have a
you're right.
reunion with a loved one. And she's like, "Oh, that's so exciting. That's very promising."
Oh.
So that's why I thought it
Okay,
was
I
for
see.
her, and that they don't, somebody is taking advantage of your good nature is her looking at Sam. And we
Yeah.
never see him take advantage of her good nature,
So it's
other
her.
other than like microaggressions, like blaming her
Oh
for
my God.
stealing $100 or whatever.
Listen, like you know, here's the thing. If you automatically jump to your like primary partner when you lose $100 and your first go-to is like, "You stole money from me," you all might want to consider some couples therapy. I'm
Also,
not saying like you dropped it or I don't know, like it was stolen.
in most cases, not all cases, but in most cases with married couples, you share the money.
I know, right?
So like,
That's like the whole point of getting married, is so that you legally share a fucking bank account.
basically,
You know?
um, yeah, I'm with you. I like what I think Ty West does so well in this short and in X. Like it's wonderful in X, which is
Which I still
uh,
haven't
it,
seen. I've not seen X or Pearls, so I'm like
it's
waiting for the appropriate moment to watch them both.
it's ambiance. He creates
Yeah.
ambiance so well. And I'm
Yeah.
sort of joking about how simple this plot is, but I think it's pretty daring of a filmmaker to take such a simple plot and be able to stretch it out to a very compelling half-hour short or
Sure.
20-minute short. And it is because of the sense of, there's a sense of dread, but there's also a sense of joy and happiness.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sense of surprise. And when the second night in the hotel, when Sam's throat gets cut, it is so
Brutal.
shocking. Like, you think we're going to let this linger a little longer because everything
No.
has been slow burn,
Yeah.
and just like, no, no, no. And we're not only just quickly knifing his throat, we're smashing it to a pulp.
Yeah. Now that was bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I gotta say, for me, like as a like I like suspense and thrillers almost as much as I love horror. So
Mm-hmm.
like you know, like good special effects, good blood, good like all that shit is great. But to me, what was even scarier was when we've been watching 20 minutes of milk toast honeymoon footage. And then the camera picks up and it films him, and you're like, why is Stephanie filming? And then it pans over to Stephanie.
Yes.
And you realize there's somebody else, a third character, which we know is probably this mysterious woman in black that we've seen pacing around outside. But that, to me, I gasped.
Yes.
Because it's, we've been watching 4 douchebags manipulate the cameras willfully. Cameras, they're like filming each other. The next one, it's made a big deal about, you're the dude with the camera. Shh, you've got the camera. Shh. And then this one, it's who has the camera becomes the mystery. And that's where I'm like, fuck yes.
Yeah.
And just for that one moment, you're in a true mysterious space, because you don't know who this third person is. You don't know if this person is stalking them across the country, if it's personal, if it's like a natural born killers thing where they're just craving violence.
Yeah.
That, to me, just that moment of realization that you think it's Stephanie with the camera, but it's not.
Yeah.
That, to me, is almost even scarier than all the blood and the splurting and the, all that, because that is true ambiguity, and nothing is scarier than ambiguity, Jeffrey.
I agree. I will say that first night when the killer doesn't kill anyone, she takes $100 out of Sam's wallet.
It's a toothbrush.
She takes his toothbrush and runs it through the toilet. And then the very next shot is the next morning, and Sam is in there brushing his teeth and
He's like, what do you want to do today, honey? Classic.
It's so good. Yeah, I loved this. I like this piece so much. It just felt, coming off of the framing device and the first episode, it just felt nice to see adults for a second. It's a nice, like, little oasis in the middle of this film about really aggressive young people.
Yeah.
And while there is a very violent murder and maybe some poor criminal decision making by these 2 women.
Yeah.
That
and also we cannot gloss over the, like, take your top off, honey moment, which again is like a holdover to this, like women getting put in positions where they have to, like, beg people to, like, put away the camera so they can, like, she's like, I'll fuck you if you just put away the goddamn camera.
Yeah.
Like, by this, this is essentially film number 3. I was like, you know what? I'm good for the night, y'all. Like,
yeah.
But we all know this is the creep show morality tale, which is good people get good things and bad people get bad things, and that's how horror sometimes works.
Yeah. Well, and it also suggests, actually, I take back what I said earlier, if we say that the fortune was her fortune that she received, of, like, somebody will take advantage of your good nature. We don't see that side of him. We actually do in the videotape.
That's him. That is him. You're right. I think you're totally right.
It's funny because I kind of, like, lost the fortune teller bit throughout watching this, because you realize it's kind of a misdirect. Like, I think you think, as this is setting up, this is going to be about a fortune gone wrong.
Yeah.
And it's not. The fortune is just incidental. It just happens to match what's happening. Like a lot of fortunes can, if you really want to make it work.
Well, like, from that fortune, you almost expect a, like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, in which they pick up a hitchhiker.
Yeah.
Like this mysterious woman who came to the door, who's like, can I get a ride? And he's like, no. She goes, okay. And then walks away. And they're like, okay, that was weird.
Yeah. All right. So we're back to tape 56, our interlude.
Oh no.
Nothing really happens here other than
just another douchebag
puts in a tape.
Lured in, and he's like, what the fuck?
The one big change in this one is behind him, the dead body's gone.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Tuesday the 17th, directed by Glenn McQuaid.
This one is rocky, but kind of awesome. Like, it takes a minute to get the tone of this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's not as like, intense, or as no, that's not the right word. It's not as intentional as the first couple, which is like, look at these assholes. Don't you wish those assholes would die? This one is like dark comedy. And it takes a moment to realize that it's a comedy.
Yes. It's rocky. I agree with you on that. It took me a bit to trust this one.
Yeah.
I was through a big chunk of this thinking, oh no, we got the student film like somebody won a contest to get a student film into a
Yeah.
major motion picture. Um, but that was me just needing to, and maybe it's a little bit on the script too of it's kind of self-aware.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
very self-aware as far as like I kept thinking of like The Descent, right? It's
Sure.
trip into the woods, one
Yep.
person has misled them about what's happening.
Yep.
um any type of Friday the 13th type movie. I think we
Yep.
got this in
Blair
Final
Witch.
Girls, where people have misled.
Oh, Final Girls. Yeah.
Yeah, Friday the 13th Part 3, I think, is the one where they're all the way up to the campsite before the one girl is like, this is where my family was murdered 20 years ago. We're
And
like,
I am
what?
here for fucking revenge, which I love. Like, once the gag is revealed,
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
Fucking great. But it does take a moment because it's like a group of 20 somethings, and like the dudes are dudes and looking at boobs, and the girls are boobs, and they're kind of like pretty hair, and
Yeah.
it's like anything you could buy at like a Walgreens or a Hot Topic makes these characters interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Except for this lead character, which is like hard. It's hard. Like the choice this actress made was to be deadpan. Again,
Mm-hmm.
with the deadpan, like do as little as possible so as not to tip your hand to the end of the film. Love that.
Mm-hmm.
But she almost doesn't do anything. So they're just like out filming. They're like, hey, do you want to go for a swim? And she's like, you're going to die up here. What? Huh? Brad, Janet,
Yeah.
And then 10 minutes later, Brad or Joey or whatever his fucking name is like, you all heard that when Samantha said, or no, Wendy said, we're going to die? That's weird, right? Here, pass that joint. I'm sure it won't come up again.
Yeah, there's a lot of build up to what it's actually doing, and when it gets to what it's actually doing, it's a very interesting horror villain.
Yeah.
But so mostly it's Joey, Big Joey, and then we've got Dweeby Little Spider, his friend, and then we've got Samantha, the pretty blonde lady, and Wendy, the deadpan girl.
Yeah.
And they are hopping out of the mystery machine, going through the woods.
God, for
just
real.
Only sans Scooby, basically.
Yeah.
And they there's a moment where Wendy says, hey, Joey, get a shot of this wall with the video camera.
Yeah.
And she says, last time I was here, my friend fell over it. And he's like, well, I don't understand. Whatever, fine. Here's the wall on videotape. But throughout this, everything he's taping, and there will be these weird glitches, like digital tape glitch, where suddenly like a dead body appears and then quickly zaps away.
Yep.
It's the second time it happens when there's like a dead body floating in the lake, but it disappears. You hear Joey say, what's wrong with this camera? So it makes you sort of question, does he see what we see? Because I am thinking early on, oh, this is just overly stylizing how we watch VHS tapes.
Sure.
Like, okay, I don't need all your MTV mid-90s jump cuts in here, but I
Get
realize,
off my lawn, you kids.
Yeah, it is a little bit of that. Like, it just feels so old school, Gen X-y, like the quick cut, zap, zap, zap. But by the end, you realize this is all one shot. Like, this hasn't been edited. This is actually happening in camera because of the
killer
monster
lives in the camera.
Yeah.
See, it's in the camera, Jeffrey. He's in the I mean, I know he's big and the camera's small, but he's in the camera.
Oh my God. Where's my THC? Hang on.
You need your THC vape.
That's right. So yeah, we finally, so there is this moment where Spider, again, with the boys being like using the camera, we talked about this in Blair Witch Project, the camera becomes a weapon.
Yeah.
And so Samantha gets
putting a spotlight intensely on a person.
Samantha gets up to go pee, and Spider follows her with the camera. And they, she's kind of pushing back and laughing it off, right? Like, she's just like, whatever, dude, just, you're kind of a creep. But she's like, hey, you want to see something really cool? And this is where things go fucking pear-shaped. Because
I love this, but actually, this actress who plays Samantha, I thought was amazing, because she really captures that, like, oh, is she the killer? Is she, there's something behind that tree. she looks really enthusiastic about something, and usually enthusiastic people die first or kill first.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the first of the two. But I
Yes.
think she's gonna like show him a like TikTok dance routine.
Which is what I think is incredible because it just comes out of
I
nowhere, and I
know. She's
loved
like,
it.
ready, okay, be aggressive, be aggressive.
But the camera glitches again, the
Yeah,
visual staticky glitch, and then suddenly she's got a blade going all the way through the back to the front of her head, and her eyeball is
like
popped out.
through her skull brain.
Yeah. And he's like, fuck, fuck, fuck. He goes running. He gets grabbed. The camera falls in a perfect way to where he ends up lying beside it, and he
Yep.
gets his head stabbed in by a knife
Yeah.
over and over and over.
And then surely 30 seconds later, Wendy comes tromping through the forest and she's like, oh, look, there's blood on this camera. Weird. Picks it up, walks away.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I gotta say, I love the killer in this idea that like I'm assuming it looks like a man in a suit with like
Mm-hmm.
maybe a red bag over his head. So it's very obscured. But then the idea that whenever he's near, like the film on the camera fucks up. It kind of reminds me, did you watch that show, The Magicians?
No.
It's a bit of a hot mess, but one of the big bads is like the face is always obscured by something. And like that's really strange and mysterious to me. And I kind of love that as a choice of like, we don't know. And I think like at one point, Wendy says, she's like, no, that guy who killed those people, he wasn't bad. He was more than that. He was evil.
Uh-huh.
Like a killer, like a dude killing people, that's bad. This is like capital P, capital E, pure evil.
Yeah.
And nothing says that more than a mysterious supernatural. Like he doesn't live in the world, he lives in the world of the video, Jeffrey.
Hey, man.
He's in the tape, man. Didn't we do that on Night Vale?
I think so, probably.
I think we literally did that on Night. No,
probably.
But I love that idea of like some supernatural creature that affects the terrain around him for some reason.
I like it too. I think it's such a cool villain. I also it's a classic thing for a lot of people in dreams is I can't see their face. That that your brain cannot fully put together a visual of what somebody looks like. They play with this in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
When they like blur out their face.
Where they can't. He keeps walking around Elijah Wood's character, and he can't ever see his face. I love that. I love playing with that here. But she goes back to Joey, and it basically is essentially does the Bond villain lecture of like, my plan was to get revenge. I had to lure you all out here, probably because you're all douchebags, and because I needed to get this killer to come out because I need to get him on video. And so
like she needs the video camera to see him.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
that's how I interpreted it. Like she needs the 20 somethings for bait to lure him out, but she needs the video camera to actually like see the glitch, as he's called, with her eye, because like without her naked eye, with the naked eye, he just appears out of nowhere or something. I don't know. Question mark.
Yeah, I don't know. Or that I think he appears without the camera, actually, because when she talks about her previous friends that had died on this trip, she said, all I remember was I could not see his face.
Okay.
And so I think the idea was, if I can get this camera, I can prove his existence.
Yeah.
But like just showing up there, if you didn't have a camera, you're still gonna get knife. But if you do have a camera, maybe if you can escape, you can send it to the Daily Beast.
But it's interesting that like,
or whatever.
It's revenge, but it's also a like I'm not crazy, you know, like which I always think about at the end of Friday the 13th, that these, you know, it's like thinking about the police procedural, like trying to come into these scenes. Like I thought about that in the Siren one. I was like, can you imagine like Myrtle Beach PD trying to come in and piece together what the living fuck happened at this Motel 6. But I also think about the other side. I think about the sort of the final girl's story, which always ends with the police showing up or the ambulance or where they make it back to civilization. But I'm like, I kind of love it when they approach the PTSD of like, what, a guy whose face you couldn't see killed all your friends. We're going to lock you up. You know, like that is like not revenge. It's vindication. It's validation. And especially from a genre that has been notoriously terrible to women throughout its entire fucking existence. Like, I like it when horror movies consider that. And she's like, I'm not crazy. My friends were fucking killed by somebody else, and I'm going to fucking prove it and take him out if I possibly can.
Counterpoint, she is crazy because she just drew a bunch of friends out there to lure them to their deaths to kind of perpetuate the thing.
With a very snotty attitude about it, I must say.
I mean, that's the clunkiness of this. So we watch Joey get his knife, his throat cut open with a knife, and then she goes running.
Yeah.
And she has clearly set up a series of traps, and he keeps getting caught in the bear trap and the little pit trap and a little like a rake full of blades that comes up and grabs his face. And there's a moment, by the way, where she also tells the camera, if you're watching this, don't come here. I'm like, yeah, no shit. Yeah, no shit.
What, like, this is what is the Zillow listing on this cabin over here? Gosh, let's gentrify the fuck out of Murder Lake.
I think the scene that really drove me the most crazy about this is Joey comes...
The chicken walk?
Yeah, dead Joey just comes doing a chicken walk. I'm like, what was the point of this?
Yeah.
Why did we watch a man get his throat cut and then go stumbling about like a zombie?
I guess it for me, it was like, you know, you can like cut off a chicken's head and it still has ambulatory. It was like one of those where it's like he's bleeding out and we think he's dead, but his body is still functioning in a like a lizard way.
I guess.
But it's an odd image, which is kind of okay. It's also like he's also wearing like shorty booty shorts, and it's a little bit like it's a little silly.
Also, just practically, she's run like half a mile through the woods.
Yeah.
And like, how did he make it over here? Like walking. How did he make it over here? The walking,
stumble bum walking. But he does that thing where he like perfectly falls, so his eyes are like staring into the camera, and you're like, okay, Juon. No, what's the what was the curse, not the grudge. Noroi, that's it.
Yeah.
In which you're like, oh, how beautifully framed this app, totally incidental.
It definitely felt like to me that he wrote down this scene first and be like, this is going to be a cool scene. And then as he built the rest of the script around it, he was never willing to let this scene go.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't work at all in this film. Like it just, I wasn't even laughing. I was like rolling my eyes like, come on, we didn't need that. But I think the glitch man getting trapped in this last thing where she gets the camera right up in his face is so much more interesting.
Yeah.
Well, she turns the camera away from this man in the trap, turns back, glitch man is gone. Oops. And then suddenly he is diving on her from the tree. He bludgeons her to death with the camera and then cuts open her belly and digs out her organs.
And just like, you know, just like a lawn sprinkler.
Yeah.
Just goes running with her guts around.
Two questions.
Like a slip and slide.
Two questions about what's happening here. One, is she becoming the glitch? Because then she starts glitching?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's, and I did not catch this. I only caught this in circumspect after reading a bit. They're like, she's becoming the glitch or a glitch herself. So she becomes the thing that is now haunting the woods.
Okay. Interesting. Second question. The digging out of the organs seemed so extra to me here, but we're going to see that in the very next film. Are these two related?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, I didn't get that at all. This next one, like, okay, so I really like and respect the fuck out of Tuesday the 17th because it's dark humor, because of its dark humor. The next one, I don't think it's funny, or if it is, it's not funny for the right reasons sometimes.
Yeah. I
it's
found
a
it
little more like we're being super serious. We're making a super serious point here, which
it felt
automatically I go, uh-oh.
it felt a little bit like entertaining comics sort of stuff, like really old school mid-century short story horror writing sort of
Yeah.
thing, although updated for Zoom relationships,
Yes, yes.
and it just at no point in time did I feel fooled by it. Like I didn't know
Right?
entirely where it was going with it, but I
Yeah.
didn't feel fooled by the relationship between Emily and James. I mean, I didn't know quite how he was an asshole, but I knew he
Jeffrey,
was the bad guy from the get-go. You know he's the bad guy.
by the end of the film, I still didn't understand what the fuck he was doing.
So this is
But here we go. But let's dive in, shall we?
this is called The Sick Thing That Happened to Emily When She Was Younger, directed by Joe Swanberg. And this is Emily and James, boyfriend, girlfriend, on
Yep.
pre-Zoom, but like a Zoom call
Yep.
by all intents and purposes,
So we
FaceTiming.
got the little box of him and the big
Yeah.
box of her.
So what we sort
Going
of
on the
know
laptop.
is they're in college or maybe grad school, and
Well, he's studying to be a doctor.
he's studying to be a
Wink,
doctor.
wink.
He's back in Michigan. She's off in I don't know where she is.
Even
Whatever.
though whenever the weather is surprisingly the same in both locations every single fucking time.
So Emily is he's back in Michigan supposedly studying medicine. We know he's going to be a doctor, and so she she makes a comment. She's like, "Oh, I got this weird bump on my arm." Like, and he's like, "Well, stop playing with it. I'll look at it when I'm there in 2 weeks or whatever."
Yeah, but you know what? In the meantime, here's my boobs.
Yeah, let me take my top off for you. And okay, I want to talk about this James character because he is so not just dry, like uninterested.
Yeah. Unresponsive even.
And I don't in the second honeymoon thing, like I get how you sort of you build your calluses up towards the person you're living with over time, because you people can change, but they're never going to fully change, and you just have to be like, well, this person's annoying when they're like that, but you don't ever think about it as annoying after a while, because you're just like, this is just
they're like, they just get hangry unless I tell them to eat a Snickers bar.
But young love, this relationship makes no sense to me. And I guess
like they've been friends since childhood.
I don't get that. I don't understand the long con here.
It is a long con. And also it's just, this is where I'm like, again, I know that this is not like, Christoph Waltz level of acting here, but it just, the lack of, like, some of the things they're saying are so underplayed.
Yeah.
That it's just here and then gone. Like, I was like, man, we could have just a few more days of rehearsal and we would have had it tight. Because they're saying things like, oh yeah, look, I just put this knife into my leg and it's terrible. And he's like, oh no, sweetie, don't do that. Don't do that again. It's like that time when you were a child. Oh no, please, you're making me so sad. And I was like, oh man, I know. The thing is, you have to underplay for camera. This is why I'm not a film actor, because I'm terrible at underplaying things. Like, I'm made to do fucking like Shakespeare and musicals and shit on a big stage. And so, but like, that's just my acting style. But this is so acting school underplayed that it's like, I'm even concerned, like, have they even met before? Like, what is this conversation?
It just, I never quite got like why she's like, oh, I love you so much, let me take my shirt off for you. And then he is kind of like, there's no look on his face. It's like,
it's like, I like that. I like boobs. Boobs are good. Your boobs are good. Gotta go. Bye.
Okay. And the next thing I don't understand. So now we get a series of these calls wherein she's like calling him at night.
Jeffrey, this is, did you hit record this time? If I call you at the middle of the night, you got to hit record. I was like, lady, you don't need to worry about him hitting record. You need to worry about getting the fuck out of that house.
So little of this story makes sense, because there's basically it's a great scare. It's classic. Like,
this has some great scares in it. Technically, this film is awesome.
this is such a fun thing, but the script is bonkers, but not in a good way. Like, it's just there's this great scare. You'll see it in the trailer if you haven't watched this, where like behind her is a door, and you suddenly see like Ghost Child run through the door and
Yeah.
slam it shut, and she
And it's like you
covers
realize
her
it's been
eyes.
there the entire time. Like it's
Yeah.
just like a still figure that then suddenly moves. Love that kind of scare.
These fucking ghost children are never explained.
No,
How they relate to the weird alien people
no.
later.
Yeah,
I
there's
don't.
what? Like
Okay,
they're all and she and her reaction to them is so nonsensical. And I
yeah.
wonder if like I kind of feel like both these actors were like acting under duress. You know, they're like they were like, fuck, we gotta do that. We gotta get through this. We gotta get through this fucking script and make this work somehow. So I'm gonna say these words and then I'm gonna collect this paycheck and I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. But she's like, I really want to capture these ghosts on film because I think my house is haunted and I'm not scared of them, but I just can't look at them because they're dead. So I'm just gonna open the laptop and you're going to describe to me what is going on and I'm going to talk to them. I'm like,
What?
this is the worst plan ever.
It's bonkers. And
I
I'm
was like,
like,
how about you just leave?
also,
Even
she
this
goes
makes
out.
Paranormal Activity seem like fucking Mensa candidate
Well,
here.
Paranormal Activity like makes sense as a film.
Yeah,
Like Paranormal Activity, say what
it
you
makes
will
sense why
about
they
how
stay.
simple it is, but
It's a yeah.
It is a solidly produced script that makes perfect sense.
Yes.
And this is not making any sense. Also, she's like going out with the laptop, like with her eyes closed, shining it around the living
I know,
room.
right?
And at one point in time, in order to, she's like, oh, it's even before she has her eyes closed when she's just walking around the living room with the
Yeah.
laptop. She's like, I can't see them. So rather than turning on the lights, she starts using like a digital
Oh my
camera
god,
with
when
a
she picks up the
flash.
camera, like a camera flash, I was like, what the are you just trying to give me a migraine? I think this movie is just trying to give me I think this is where like the pulsing behind my right eye started. I was like, I need to take some Advil and go to fuck to sleep because this podcast is killing me.
Oh my God. It's so maddening. We get to the scene where, it's later, it's in the day. She's on a call with him. She's like jamming like tweezers into an open wound on her arm.
Right?
And then she's like, I'm gonna go get a fucking like 14-inch skewer from the kitchen and start.
Like she got the big green egg skewer and she's flipping over some fucking steaks on the grill. And he's like, no, don't do this again. It's like that time when you were younger and you did. I was like, what? Like, Jeffrey, if you pulled out a pair of like if you pulled out like the smallest knife you could imagine, like a pair of like cuticle tweezers.
Yeah.
And even like if you started to like anything bad, I would be flipping the fuck out.
Yeah.
Never mind when you see the wound, and I know it's this very like, I think they're trying to play this like kindness and sensitivity to neurodivergence of like, he's trying to, the long con is he's trying to be supportive, but not fucking call 911 because he's actually harvesting alien babies from her or fucking something. I don't know. But it's so non-reactive that you're like, what the living fuck is going on here? Who are these people?
It's
very
really,
confusing.
really weird. It's so weird. So then we finally get to one more of these nighttime things where I'll close my eyes. You tell me what he's doing. No. And then finally somebody's there. She gets knocked over. We see the computer go sideways and just Emily's body on the ground. And she is surrounded by 2 or 3, like what look like teenagers.
I kind of like ghost-eyed children, but they have like hollows under their eyes. But they just kind of look like, they look like middle schoolers.
I'm going to do a thing I've done a couple times on the podcast when I get to something so inscrutable. I'm just going to tell you what Wikipedia told me happened here.
Okay, great.
The children are revealed to not be ghosts, but rather aliens, watching as James surgically removes an alien fetus from Emily's torso, revealing that they are using Emily as an incubator for alien-human hybrids. James, who has been working with the aliens and removing the fetuses for some time, questions the aliens how much longer they plan to do this to Emily, as he worries that she may not survive much more of it, mentioning to them that the arm bump is a tracking device. The aliens erase Emily's memory while James breaks some of her bones to make it look like an accident again.
What? What? Too much. This sounded good. You know what? Like when you pitched this film, it sounded fucking dope.
Yeah.
But it was a bit of a leap for me.
It's so much, and so much happens in this scene.
Yeah. In like literally 15 seconds, all of that is revealed.
Yeah, and they have to pare back the dialogue so they're not directly saying it, that you have to kind of piece it together. And it's hard to like fully wrap your head around what the fuck is going on, because we just jumped all the way to like, oh, he's not in Michigan, he's down the hall.
Yeah.
I don't fully well, maybe time has lapsed, maybe she's been there for weeks.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe he did make it from Michigan, but no. And I actually, like, I thought that was one of the, once that reveal happened, fuck the alien children.
Yeah.
That to me was the scare. I was like, you could have made this whole thing about like gaslighting, and it would have been fucking terrifying if it was like this, like the classic Gaslight film of convincing, like this woman that she's in peril when you're the one controlling the peril from the next. Like, that to me is scary. That's fine.
Yeah, he's clearly gaslighting her. I just don't understand what the aliens are doing, harassing her.
They want babies,
I
apparently.
guess. I don't know. No, it's just the final scene is we see her with a black eye and broken arm. She went to the doctor he recommended, and she got diagnosed as schizoaffective. So like, he is the most intense gaslighter.
Yeah. Though I mean, it's like Rosemary's. I mean, literally, this is like Rosemary's Baby, but with aliens.
Yeah,
kind of. So like you kind of implied there's a cabal.
Yeah.
Of this out there.
And she says, you deserve to be with somebody normal. And he says, you're the only person I've ever wanted to be with, Emily. And she says, I love you. And he's like, he just stares at nothing.
You're like, girl, you don't, come on. And he's like, gotta go by. Cut to another girl with big boobs having the same conversation.
And a sore spot on her arm.
My arm is kind of, but here's my boobs.
Okay. Now, before we get to our final one, we get our final of our framing device.
Yes.
So basically, we're left with just the mustache man of,
oh my god,
of Boy Gang.
Dirt Stash Gary.
He finds his buddy Zach, who I gained as one of the boys' names. Zach has been decapitated.
Yes.
Suddenly, the old man, who is a zombie, is now chasing Mustache Man. He does the same thing as Clint in the earlier Amateur Night and runs down the stairs, breaks his leg. And here comes Granddad.
Trying to... This is where it's like, maybe if you put the camera down. Oh, no, because then the whole found footage thing just becomes null and void. But, it's a very Noroi where I'm like, just put the camera down and
drop the camera for your life. Live your life. Yeah.
Live your life. Live, laugh, love.
Then our last tape starts up. This to me was the most fun, I guess, of the thing. And this is Radio Silence. So these are the folks who did Southbound, which we covered for the show.
Yeah.
And they also did Ready or Not,
which we covered for Patreon.
On Patreon. And the last two Scream films.
Well, what I love about this one is that it's the least douchebaggery out of all these films. Pretty like we have 4 dudes that are all just normal people, which I was like, thank God, just people that are not like they're listening to music and it's loud, but they're not being assholes. They're just out on a Halloween night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But it becomes important because we have to actually root for these people. I will admit, when they get to this fucking house, I was like, y'all, there ain't no party going on inside this house. I think it's time for Denny's.
Yes.
It's time for the Denny's portion of the evening.
These boys are kind of noisy and a little bit dense, but that's kind of the worst part about
But they're
them.
fine.
They're fine.
Again, like, they're fine.
So we've got kind of our main one. So we've got Tyler, Chad, Paul, and Matt. But basically, Tyler, Paul, and Matt that's Radio Silence. Those three boys are
Oh, gotcha.
the guys. And I think those are their real first names as well.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyways, so they're all dressed up. So Tyler's dressed, I think his outfit's the best. He's dressed as a nanny cam, which
Yes.
means
He's a teddy
dressed
bear
as a teddy bear with a camera on its chest.
with a giant camera. Yeah.
Again,
like ingenious way to incorporate the camera
totally.
without making me watch the most shaky, because it's like ground, like it walks as a person walks rather than as a hand moves.
Yes.
Although by this point, my migraine is golf ball size.
Yes. So they're basically going to this party. It's on the
Halloween party.
Other side of the railroad tracks, which I love.
Uh-huh.
So they cross the railroad tracks to get to this party. It is funny because they have a physical map as opposed to a GPS, which is funny. But they're like, oh, nobody's here at the front door when we knocked. Let's go around back. They're probably out back. Nobody's out back. They sneak in.
All the lights are on.
Yeah. They're like, Justin, you here? And then creepy shit starts happening. And what I think is happening, I could be wrong. Should have Wikipedia'd this one too. Okay. But I think the reason why they stay in the house.
Yeah.
I don't know if they say this or not, but I think why they're staying in this house is I think they're like part of the party is a haunted house.
Yeah.
Like that is, because as it goes along, they're really enamored with all the creepy shit. Because you can tell.
Like, ooh, another empty room. Oh, yeah. Oh, so scary, Justin.
Yeah. So I don't think they're super dense because at no point are they scared, but they're not making fun of it. They very clearly are playing some version of themselves, which are guys who love horror movies, being like, oh shit, they did a haunted house. This is cool. Let's see what's going on.
And they love like jumping, and they keep scaring each other. Although we do see for a brief moment, there's like gray faces in the mirror. There's gray faces on doorways. I actually love one of my favorites, like almost a shout out to Poltergeist, in that there's like a solitary chair that continues to follow them through the house. It's really subtle.
Oh, I did not grok this at all. But awesome.
It's just a straight back chair. And it's like the first thing one of them notices is like, oh, look, a chair knocked over. Like there was a scuffle, scary. But then they go into another room and the chair is sitting like right in the doorway. And they go into another room and the chair is sitting in the corner. And then one of the guys catches the image of a ghost and turns back. But it's the same fucking chair. And I was like, subtle. That's what we like. And then later, when the haunted, like when the shit goes bananas, the chairs are like stacked as they are in Poltergeist.
Yeah. And we also get a great classic scare where he comes into a bedroom and he sees that chair. Yeah. It's empty. He pans over, there's a mirror on the wall, and you just kind of catch a glimpse of the chair in the mirror, and there's a little girl in it.
Yeah.
And he cuts back real fast and there's no one there. So good. Okay. So they're going through this house. It's great. It's shit. The other boys come running out of a room when Tyler notices.
Oh, you scared the crap out of me,
little girl. Yeah, and they're like, I think something like reached out of the wall and grabbed Chad or whatever.
And he's like, it was the best.
It was so cool. They get upstairs. They find a creepy fucking hallway. Just every door is cracked. Oh, narrow hallway, fluorescent lit. Every door is cracked open to dark rooms.
Jeffrey, I actually lived in that house in college.
Oof.
No, really, I lived in an actual haunted, like it was a Midwest mystery house in college.
It had shit?
It had stairways that were bricked in that went to nowhere.
Okay.
It had in the attic, which looked very much like this attic. In this film, there was a very tiny room that had been constructed in the middle of the attic that was painted entirely black on the inside. There was a window to that attic that no matter how many times I closed it, latched it, roped it shut, would always be found open. Like, I mean, even 5 minutes later, I would go downstairs, look at it from the outside, and it would be open.
Oof.
And this is the only time I have ever been sitting in a house by myself, middle of summer, college is out. I'm like working my day job, just living my life as a 19, 20-year-old. And literally I heard someone say, "Get out." And I immediately turned off the television. No, I think I was reading. I immediately closed my book and left for a good 4 hours.
If a voice I cannot see says get out, I will obey that voice
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
quickly. Yes, sir. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
You got it. I mean, I did live in that house for the rest of my senior year of college.
Yeah.
And it was fine. We also had a cat with two, like the bifurcated eyes that like really loved to come around. So I was like, it never felt malevolent, but it was definitely this level of like big meandering. It was like a Midwest kind of barn, you know, like one of those like big, like Victorian houses. And it was creepy as fuck.
Well, these boys are exploring this hallway and they start hearing noises upstairs, and you kind of hear muffled lots of people talking. You think they found the party.
Oh yeah.
But as they're getting closer, the sound design in this is so good that as they're getting closer, it starts sounding a little bit more like a preacher, maybe?
Yeah.
A
Very like
congregation?
fire and brimstone.
Yeah,
Kind of
and
preaching.
there's a secret narrow stairwell from the bathroom up into an attic, and there's a group of like 3 or 4 men in this attic space surrounding a woman who is in, a white nightgown tied
Yep.
to the rafters
Yep.
with rope, and they are basically performing an exorcism
Or something.
I think
Yes,
it's an
I think
exorcism because it's very
yeah.
preachy, and also it sets up this,
Like
this show,
yeah.
this movie so far, every short has been about men. It's been about, some of it has been revenge on all of it's been revenge on terrible men, but it is about the awful things that men do. And one of the awful things that we're all very aware of in our generation and younger, that awful things men have done, is the witch trials, right? Like
Yeah.
inquisitions against
Yep.
witches or against women, right?
Yeah.
And labeling them witches. And so these boys first are like part of the haunted house. So they start chanting along
I know,
until
right?
the
I love
dudes
that.
turn around and are like, "You shouldn't be here." And they hit the girl when she starts flailing.
Yeah.
And so these boys in this movie, our protagonists in this film, just like us, are aware, no, there's no such thing as witches. You are doing something
Yes.
awful,
Like
and
you've kidnapped somebody.
we will save you.
They make it all the way downstairs.
Well, first they see shit goes weird because one of the preacher men starts screaming and flies up into the air.
Yes.
And they go running out the fucking door before they hear her screaming again, and Tyler's like, "We have to save her."
Yeah. Oh, so noble.
So noble. As the viewer of the horror film, I will also say so stupid because I know the thing you do not know. It's not dumb. It's something I think we should all want to do, and it's tragic.
If there's something like, listen, like, although admittedly, if this had been a world with cell phones, you could be calling 911 from the front lawn.
Yeah.
But, neither here nor there.
So they can't leave. They get back up there. It's funny because the men who we initially are like, oh, these are the bad guys.
Yeah.
These men are actually being possessed and sucked up into
space.
I
love this. Didn't they do this in the Zoom horror movie?
In Host.
Host. This idea of like just someone being like sucked into darkness.
Yeah.
Is so fucking terrifying. And it's also like not hard to do on a low budget, and like bang for your buck, it works every time. So good on you.
They cut the lady
loose.
Her
down. Yeah.
They're running through the house. I love the effects in this because some of them are digital as like windows are shrinking to nothing.
Yeah. They go for a doorknob and the doorknob just sort of like just sucks back into the door.
Arms like coming out of walls.
I love the like there's a flock of ravens just flying from one room to the other. Unexplained. The chairs are going bananas. The telltale chair.
Yeah.
But it's like
goddamn Beauty and the Beast in there.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. And this idea of the arms, it's Cocteau. It's John Cocteau's La Belle et la Bête, which is like one of the first. It's a black and white film. It's absolutely stunning.
Uh-huh.
You must watch. We probably should watch it for this film, but it captures dream reality of like the candelabras are all arms that
Yeah.
move with the person. So
Amazing.
the house is alive, but nothing says house is alive more than that. But it's very much a play on that. But I just love it when you get subtle. Like again, it's House of the Devil, in which there's a slow burn and then you're paid off with batshit bananas. And
Yeah.
I thought this film paid off batshit bananas very well.
I thought it did too. I thought it paid off really, really well. They get her out of the house by
Finally,
going
yep.
down through the basement.
Oh
They
my
find the
God,
back
right?
entrance, get out, and you're like, shit, they made it. They get in the car. She's freaking out.
Yeah.
She is still like,
Well,
we
she's
know
also
as
been
the
like
viewers.
stabbed in the leg, so they have to be like very like so they're like doing all the right things.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, be careful of her leg. Get her in the car. Get her in the car.
But they can't find the street signs, and they're as they're talking, they're like, the streets aren't, they don't look the right. Like everything
Yeah.
is changing.
Yeah.
And the guy driving, I think is Chad. Chad's like that. This is the car's behaving weird, and the
Yeah.
car basically drives them onto the train track
I know.
and stops.
Yep.
And then they turn to look at the lady, and she's gone, and she is outside the window now.
And she's just like screaming.
It's so scary. It's such a good jump. And they try to open the doors, and they're like, unlock the door. Chad, unlock the doors. Unlock the doors. And he's like, I'm trying. And they don't get it in time. Giant, bright white lights.
Yes.
Such a great, practical, cheap effect to do.
Yeah.
The
You don't need to
oncoming
see the
train at
train.
night.
It's yeah. Oh,
Did you know that there's an alternate ending to 10/31/98, this
really?
movie? It's not intended to be an alternate ending. It
Okay.
was another version of the ending that they shot, I think, just to be funny.
Okay, sure.
I'm gonna include it in the show notes. I'll show it to you after. We won't play it here because it needs the it needs the visual, but it's essentially an ending where they get out just
Okay.
fine, and it's hilarious because
nice.
it is them being boys and being very funny and self-referential about the film they just made.
love it.
It's super great. So I'll leave that in the show notes for the alternate ending to 10/31/98. Absolute fucking delight. And then we get the credits, and we get over the credits the shots of boy gang busting up a house.
Yep.
Boys are bad.
What it's also like mixed together and over the credits. This is where like I was like, I respect this, but I need to lie down and have a glass of milk because I'm old.
Yep. Let us rate this film. What say you?
Yes, let's.
Okay, so on our Sasha scale, the squeamish approachability scale for the horror averse, how approachable is this movie? I'll give it a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like not at all approachable, being like funny games, and 10 being super approachable, over the garden wall. So on that scale of 1 to 10, I would give VHS like 2 stalled cars on the train tracks out of 10. It has all the things, man. It's bloody, it's gory, a couple of like open wound fractures, jump scares, creepy shit in the background, creepy shit in the foreground,
alien fetuses,
yeah, a body horror, like dissection of the body, and and of course like trigger warnings for like sexual assault and gaslighting and all that shit. I mean, this movie's a lot.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're still working your way up to the bad ones, to the tough ones, I would say move this down the list a little bit. So that's for me as approachability. You want to rate this movie as a horror film, Cecil?
Sure. In the canon of horror films, this is a great anthology. Some of the themes are a little bit repetitive just because I think that was what was in the air in 2012. However, I think it's not so similar that it becomes too monotonous. It's variations on different themes. Some of those themes are similar. However, this film is like a great solid mixture of anthology horror. It embraces the short film, it embraces the found footage, it embraces like a lot of simple effects, a lot of practical effects. It also embraces a lot of like crazy, like in the last one, there's fucking ravens and arms in the walls and shit. So it's all over the map. But that's what I love about anthologies, is that it allows you to go from quiet and subtle to loud and crazy and then back again. So because of that, I'm going to give this one 7 out of 10 Army Soldier Boys.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I think that's a great breakdown of what this movie is doing. As far as like a horror anthology, I think it feels very classic, and I think horror anthologies are notoriously up and down, and this one has its ups and downs, but all in all, I think the whole thing floats.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Let's see what we're gonna watch next. So you have a scare die, I have a style die. We're gonna roll those up and see what movie matches those two things. So on your scare die, Cecil, if you roll a 1, our next movie scare is Normal People. 2, vampire. 3, a lady killer, which we had a few of this time. 4, creepy children. We had some this time. 5, aquatic horror. 6 is wild card, whatever scary fucking thing we want. So what do you got?
That's a 1.
Normal People. Okay, so we're going to match up your Normal People scare with my style. If I roll a 1, our style is giallo. 2, action fantasy. 3, animated or musical. 4, something with a good day scare. 5, something set in New York. Or 6, a Japanese horror film. So what do we got with Normal People? I got a 3, animated or musical.
Oh, fun.
Okay. Do you want to start by talking about some of the ones that are on our list, and then I'll pull up what Letterboxd users thought?
So one of the first ones we have is Perfect Blue, which I've never seen.
Same.
It's an animated film from Japan, and I believe this is the one that kind of is this the one where she's a pop star that is being stalked, or is this the one where it's like she's a dream inception assassin kind of one? Because there's two that I always get the names confused.
Paprika is the dream assassin.
That's
one.
it.
Yes.
Okay,
This
so
is the stalking
one.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like J-pop star whose life begins to unravel. I've not read much about it because I know it's going to be a bit of a mindfuck, and I don't want any spoilers. So I'm hazy on the description.
Yeah.
But I think it is very much like when you lose your identity kind of themes, which oh my God, I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't either. And I think this is currently on Shudder as well. I think
great.
People realizing what a classic
on the other side of the fence, we have Cannibal the Musical from Trey Parker and Matt Stone. I love this. I've not seen this since I was in college, but this definitely influenced a lot of my humor. The only thing I remember about it has lyrics such as like the sky is blue and all the leaves are brown. The sun is hot like a baked potato. Like it's just silly. But who doesn't love a horror musical?
Yeah.
What else we have? We have Watership Down, which is one of my favorite scary animated films for children that's totally not for children.
Yeah. And it's not people, but they are people, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very much like it follows a group of rabbits that are being forced out of their home, and one of the rabbits has psychic abilities and is like, we got to go or else we're all going to die. Sure enough, they all go, and they go through they find different rabbit habitats that are all various different forms of societies. So democracy, dictatorship, there's sort of a lotus eater sort of thing. And so it's very much a political allegory, but they're normal people, quote unquote, but they're just rabbits.
Sure. I don't know these last. I know two of. I know Grey Gardens you have on here.
And I put Grey Gardens on there.
Yeah, this is a documentary.
It's a documentary. It is I've seen this documentary upwards of 10 times. And it's one where like I'll watch it and I'm like, this is so funny. And then I'll watch it. I'm like, this is so sad. Yeah. And then I'll watch it. I'm like, this is so scary.
Yeah.
But never not entertaining. Yeah. Never not fascinating. Yeah. So because of that, I put it on there because there is something kind of insanely scary about these
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 Kennedys.
these rich old Kennedys just batting around in this house on the Hamptons.
Yeah.
Raccoons and eating pate out of cat food cans.
Unbelievable.
But let's see. I put The Last Unicorn on there. I've not seen The Last Unicorn in like since I was a kid, but I know it's one of those like again, like Watership Down. It's a children's story that's not for children. The book is not for, it's a fantasy, but that doesn't mean it's a children's fantasy. But I think it does have sort of a normal character who gets sucked into a world where he has to fucking save the last unicorn against a big demon bull or something. I can't remember. I was 10 the last time I saw it.
Okay.
And then finally, The Cars That Ate Paris, which I put on there because I just really want to see this film.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a goddamn thing about it, though.
I just read the synopsis and I don't know that I fully know a lot about it either, but I fucking love the poster.
Yeah.
It looks really, really dope.
It's very like 1970s Aussie exploitation, like when the Aussie film market just like went bananas and they started making like very out there, like non-Hollywood. Some of them are transgressive. And I think The Cars That Ate Paris is kind of like a Mad Max twist in that it's like kind of a town that post-apocalyptic-y. So I'm talking about nothing. I know that there's fucking dope ass cars in it.
Yeah.
That's about all I got.
It looks really cool.
Maybe it's a musical. Don't know. Question
Who
mark.
even knows?
Looks like it might be.
So I'm going to get through a few of the letterboxed suggestions. Great. Peter Burt throws out, I got to support my gang and shout out Scooby-Doo. So there's a lot of Scooby-Doo animated films. Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders, Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase specifically. Brave Crab mentions one that we covered very early on in the podcast is The Wicker Man. And
did we do an actual episode for The Wicker Man?
Or did it for Patreon?
We just did it on Patreon.
Yeah. And 1973. It's a fantastic musical. Yep. Kate and several other people bring up Repo, the genetic opera.
Yeah.
Don't know enough about that, but that's like Mad Scientist, right?
It's very Mad Scientist. It's very like in the future, you rent a kidney, right? And then if you can't pay your bills, Paul Sorvino comes and rips it out. R.I.P. I love Paul.
Ganymede's Cup throws out Midori, 1992, an animated little orphan girl joins a freak show circus. Whose members rape and abuse her. Then she finds a glimmer of hope in the enigmatic magician who joins the group. That sounds really intense. Paul Richards brings up one that lots of people brought up, which is Phantom of the Paradise, 1974.
I've never seen this, Jeffrey, and I feel like it's always described to me as like the dark twin of Rocky Horror.
Mm-hmm.
Like around the same. I think my brother watched it and he was like, "Have you seen this fucking movie?" And I'm like, "No, I'm kind of and I'll watch it eventually." He's like, "It's so bananas. Like you can't even describe it. It's so bananas." But that might be the perfect way to unpack it. I don't know. Musical, probably. Normal people? Question mark?
But I'll buy it looks really fucking bonkers. Yeah, I really want to see this. Paul also throws out Mad God, which didn't look like normal people to me, but we'll throw that out there.
God.
That's it's the animator who did like a 40-year-long project he started working on in the 80s. It's on, I think it's still on Shudder, but it's a fully stop motion animated. Like it's cool. Psychotic looking. It's crazy. It's
okay.
Somebody in a plague mask goes down into the depths of hell sort of thing. Yeah. So, I know I just greatly reduced that. Stage Fright was thrown out by Josh Ludd. Yep. This is the one from 2014. King and Commoner says, I know, I accept that some people will disagree, but normal people are the real villains in Paranorman. Which is a great point. I think that's a really great point.
So like which is kind of why we put like when normal people attack kind of thing.
Grills Cheeser says, When the Wind Blows, 1986, a naive elderly British rural couple survive the initial onslaught of a nuclear war. Oof. Is this a musical?
Or a cartoon?
Or a cartoon? I don't know.
Are you just saying words?
I'm just saying words. I just made up the last 25 minutes.
Yep. Shock Treatment from R.E. West. Yeah.
Yep.
Shock Treatment it's a good one. It's a good one.
We've got Oz Conway throws that Little Shop of Horrors. Now
Right.
the monster is not a normal people, but Steve Martin is a bad guy and
Yep.
is a normal people.
Well, and Rick Moranis starts off as a normal person and does terrible, terrible things.
He does
in the name of love and fame. Man, y'all fucking got a hard on for Repo the Genetic Opera.
They really do, yeah. Suspicious
Ooh,
Beans seconding When the Wind Blows, but also again not telling us if this is a musical or an animated feature, I guess.
Maybe it's animated.
Yeah.
Sav pointed out Climax, which Climax is it's a dance troupe. So there's music and dancing, true, no singing, true, but it's like a serial killer like doses this dance troupe with like a crazy cocktail of drugs and then just watches them all destroy each other. It's a hard watch.
Yeah. Interesting. Rye also throws out Phantom of the Opera.
Sure.
The video of the stage production, not the movie version.
Oh, okay. But I'll buy that.
I would probably do the movie version, other than the stage production. But
Christine.
Okay, I think we've gotten through a lot of. We have so many to choose from. Normal People is a pretty broad villain, so I'm going to tell you the ones that stuck out. I mean, I think so many people casting their votes for Repo the Genetic Opera, I think is top line. I would say the other.
Here's the thing about Repo, y'all. Like, there ain't a goddamn normal person in that entire film. Everybody is like steampunked to the nostrils.
Yes.
And as much as I love watching shadow casts of things, like one of the best times at a Comic-Con, I like top 5, maybe not the best, but top 5 was watching a shadow cast of Repo the Genetic Opera. But for this, I think I would go Phantom of the Paradise over Repo. Just because I haven't seen it.
I haven't either. I would say the one that I'm most excited about is Perfect Blue.
And I would do Perfect Blue over Phantom of the Paradise, just because it's animated. It just sounds so tantalizing in that it's like when normal life becomes absurd through fame, and then oh my god, like it just ticks all the boxes for me.
Because I think if we say Repo is not normal people because they're steampunk, Phantom of the Paradise is not normal people. It is space disco.
It is total space disco. Like I might have, like, you know, let's see what else. Looking back at the other ones, I mean,
Carcetate Paris was a Black Horse's Carcetate Paris. Sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
I think Perfect Blue is like.
I think that's the one, Jeffrey.
I think that's the top line one. It's come up so many times on people trying to get it for our monthly live streams.
Yeah.
And it's one I've really wanted to see. And, I think really getting a really solid animated movie.
Yeah.
Even if it's not Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island.
Listen, I want to watch Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island so bad.
I do too. Let's hit up Perfect Blue. I think now's our time to hit this Japanese animated classic. And we'll do that. So listen, thanks for listening, y'all. Thank you, Cecil, for talking with me. And if you have thoughts on VHS or ideas for other movies that would have been good, normal people meets animated or musical, let us know on Twitter or on Instagram at randomhorror9, and watch Perfect Blue with us this week. And come on back next Tuesday for a new episode. Have a restful night with no one tricking you into a trip into the Death Woods or nothing. Boo.